Small Green Computers is specialized in music streaming technology and is very popular in the streaming community on the web. This time I review the third generation of their sonicTransporter i7 CDR and I fell in love immediately. The sonicTransporter series of media streamers consists of 4 models, 2 based on the Intel i5 processor, 1 on the Intel i9 processor and the one on review here that is based on the Intel i7 processor. They all 4 are passively cooled and all have Sonicorbiter software running on Linux. Sonicorbiter lets you install server software and utilities without knowledge of Linux or any other operating system for that matter. When I talk about the sonicTransporter next, I mean the i7 CDR version. The sonicTransporter needs storage from the music files and the easiest way to provide that is to load a 2.5-inch SATA SSD in the designated bay on the back. From there on there are many possibilities. If your stereo has a USB input on its DAC, you can connect it to the sonicTransporter that way. A storage alternative can be an external drive also connected over USB. To have access to the streaming services, internet radio and updates, the sonicTransporter needs to be connected to your router over a network cable. That also enables connection with your computer or NAS to access music stored there. A better way to connect the sonicTransporter to your stereo is over the network. One way to do that is to use the network bridge, which essentially is a digital output on a distance and connected over the network. That will work with music player software like Logitech Media Server, DLNA, UPnP-AV and Room. These music servers can all be installed on the sonicTransporter from a menu and are controlled over a smartphone or tablet. Later more on this. A third possibility is to use a network player. The difference with a network bridge is that the music can be selected from the network player directly or, again, over a smartphone or tablet. Yet another possibility is to use an amplifier or receiver with built-in streamer. Many AV receivers have DLNA streaming integrated. The cabinet of the sonicTransporter is milled from a solid block of billet aluminium, where the components are mounted against the top. Along the left outside top there are ribs to enlarge the cooling surface. The entire cabinet forms the cooling profile for the Intel i7 processor. It measures 229 by 190 by 46 mm and weighs 6.8 kilos. On the front left we see a power switch and on the right the Panasonic optical drive. It is a DVD writer since that has a more precise mechanism, but here it is used to rip CDs only. On the rear we see the 2.5-inch drive bay that can hold a 2.5-inch SATA drive. Next to it the DC power input where the included 12V 5 amps power brick has to be connected. The network cable is connected here. There are 2 USB 3 ports and 2 USB 2 ports where storage media and a DAC can be connected. The sonicTransporter only supports 1 USB drive for music storage. The second drive can be used as backup. By the way, connecting a DAC to one of the USB ports will have quality limitations as discussed further on. Back to the back where we see 2 HDMI ports and a display port that are there for maintenance only. When the bottom is unscrewed we see the components mounted against the top of the cabinet. The Panasonic optical drive connected over a SATA to USB cable to the computer board. For reliability the connectors are fixed with glue. That computer board has its i7 processor mounted against the cabinet for optimum cooling. On the board we find 16 GB of crucial DDR4 3200 RAM, which is twice the amount room requires. The system drive is next to it, a transient 128 GB M.2 SSD. Left of the computer board we find the drive slot. here filled with my 8TB Samsung 870 QVO SSD drive. Sonicorbiter is menu software that lets you install server programs and utilities, quite simple from a menu. My review sample came with room server, drive mounter and CD import installed. I installed the DLA server Minin server. By the way, to use Roon, HQ Player and use the full-fledged version of Minin server, subscriptions are needed. Other software may be free or donationware. On this page you see all the software that can be installed directly from this menu. Installing Minin server was a question of clicking the icon. To set the map that holds the music, you have to install MiniWatch on your computer and fill out /storage in the content dir field. That's all, folks. If you want to use a DLA server or Squeezebox server, you could just use a simple computer. Roon server is more demanding, but can run perfectly on an Intel NUC i3 if your catalog isn't too big and if you don't want heavy DSP or DSD conversion done. For Roon users, an easier solution is the new Roon Nucleus One server that comes at $500. Not only is Roon already installed, it is also silent enough to be in your listening room. See my review. A more powerful solution running an Intel i5 and totally silent is the sonicTransporter i5 that I reviewed in May 2018 and that is now in its third generation. But if you have a very big catalog or if you want to have Roon perform intensive DSP functions, an Intel i7 is needed. You then choose for an Intel NUC i7, built-in 16GB of RAM and a 128GB M.2 SSD. Without operating system like Windows 11, it will add up to €900 including VAT. You have to set the BIOS and install a version of Linux or better install Roon Rock, but then you are limited to Roon server only. If you're handy with computers that can all be done, but you can't place the NUC in your listening room for the fan can be rather noisy. Ripping CDs then should be done on a separate CD drive or on your computer and then copy to your server. If you choose the TOL version of the NUC, an M.2 SSD can be built in easily. Alternatively, you could buy the Roon Nucleus Titan at €4,000, which is the only Roon server that can be controlled by API, Creston and Control 4 remote devices. You know, those fancy boardroom remote panels that let you not only control AV but also AC, blinds and lighting. For home use this is not needed. You just need a tablet, smartphone or depending on the server software even a computer to select music and set the volume. Like the Nucleus One, the Titan comes with Roon pre-installed and thus is plug and play. And then there is the sonicTransporter i7 CDR on review here that will set you back around €1,900 including VAT and shipping to Europe. The US price is $1,895 excluding sales tax and shipping. The sonicTransporter i7 CDR is nothing more than a mini computer board, an optical drive and a bay for a SATA SSD built in and an extremely nice cabinet that doubles as a huge cooling body. Running 7 streams, all upsampling and volume leveling, brought the temperature of the cabinet up to 30.5 degrees Celsius, 86.9 degrees Fahrenheit. When after completely filling up the 8TB SSD with music, Roon was evaluating the music files at full speed, quite a processor intensive task. The temperature of the cabinet then went to only 44.7 degrees Celsius, 112.5 degrees Fahrenheit. It is the combination of the hardware, the fantastic looking sturdy cabinet and the ease of use of the Sonicorbiter software that makes it such an attractive product to me. Compared to my NUC i7 it's so much more convenient. I could place it in the living room, it's silent, and after buying a new CD, yes, I still buy CDs since they provide a solid backup next to the file backups I make. After buying a new CD, I can easily have it ripped without going to the knock on the 3rd floor. Aesthetically, it also fits in a stereo rack since it about has the same standard width of 430mm and is 1 unit high. It comes with brackets to mount it in a 19-inch rack too. And it can run more than one music server program at the same time. As I said, I had it running Roon and Minim server at the same time. One note: some of the tools the Sonicorbiter offers did not install since it couldn't find the needed files on the web. This was the case with Roon Extension Manager and Sonos Auto Configure. The sonicTransporter has no sound quality. It delivers bits to the connected devices. Over USB it sends the standard pollution any general computer or computer-like device does. Therefore the USB outputs are not sent audio. You need to activate it in the Sonicorbiter software. Normally renderers, endpoints or rooms, whatever you want to call the equipment that plays the music from the server, are connected over the network. If you have a Marantz, Denon, Lin, Volumio, Eversolo or other equipment that uses DNLA protocol, you can install any of the DNLA or UPnP AV servers available in Sonicorbiter. For music I liked Minim server best, so I installed that by simply clicking the icon. Minim server is controlled from a computer by installing MinimWatch. You need to fill in the content directory, which is /storage. If you are a fan of the Squeezebox environment, Squeezebox server can be installed in a comparable way. I obviously used Roon, that was already installed on the review sample. Getting back to the sound quality. Also Ethernet has influence on the sound quality, as I have reported on many occasions. So it helps the sound quality if the Ethernet signal is cleaned up by filtering out signals that pollute the analog square wave signal used for the transport of bits. That can be done by the network bridge or streamer. I reviewed the Sonora Micro Rendo network bridge by Small Green Computers already in 2016 and was then shocked by the sound quality improvement it offered. The newer upgraded version is called Ultra Rendo. And then there's the Optical Rendo Deluxe that used a glass fiber connection to provide optimum galvanic separation. If your network bridge or streamer doesn't clean up the Ethernet signal enough, there are separate filters and switches to do that. See my playlist Audio Grade Network Switches and Network Filters. By the way, if you use the USB output of the sonicTransporter to connect to a DAC, that signal can also be cleaned up to a certain degree. See my playlist USB Conditioners. The sonicTransporter i7 CDR is a great music server. Yes, there are cheaper options, more expensive ones too. I must stress that some software like Roon and the full Minim server version need subscriptions. And the price of the sonicTransporter i7 CDR I mentioned is excluding storage. It comes with a 128GB M.2 SSD as system drive, but the 8TB SSD I used was my own. But you can order several sizes SATA SSDs as an extra. I must confess I love the sonicTransporter i7 CDR, but I think that was already quite clear. And on that bombshell we come to the end of this video. If all goes to plan, there will be a new video again next week, but the chances are this time the planning is too tight and I will have to skip 1 week. So subscribe to this channel or follow me on Patreon, Facebook, LinkedIn or Instagram to stay informed on when new videos are out. Help me reach even more people by giving this video a thumb up or link to this video on the social media. It is much appreciated. Many thanks to those viewers that support this channel financially. It keeps me independent and lets me improve the channel further. If that makes you feel like supporting my work too, the links are in the comments below this video on YouTube. I'm Hans Beekhuizen, thank you for watching and see you next time. And whatever you do, enjoy the music.